Well, when your next episode aligns almost perfectly with the year-end album drought, and practically nothing new is coming out, yeah, this feels like an episode I'm making out of obligation more than anything else, honestly, but something is better than nothing. Anyways, we're keeping this brief. Here's some first impressions and quick thoughts on albums I heard in the last month. This is Albumpressions. Sometimes I feel like my preferences in black metal are becoming more and more abstract over time. Like, this is ostensibly black metal, but it has more in common with a pure drone piece delivered through roaring guitar noise than anything else. There's enough of a sense of motion and dynamism here to keep this from getting dull throughout its half-hour runtime, though, and the distant, completely inaudible vocals that occasionally pop into the mix add to the cold, ominous sound here. Conceptually, this is apparently about a fungal infection in bats that causes them to wake from hibernation in the dead of winter, usually resulting in them dying from starvation or the freezing temperatures, which, nature is scary, man. It's definitely a bleak concept matched with an equally bleak sound, and while I don't know if it's particularly substantial, I dig the atmosphere it gives off enough to want to come back to it regardless of its morbidness, though I do wish it were longer. Oh, not Cyril putting 2 drone albums in a row on Albumpressions, but like, this one's really damn good, so how could I not? It's quite dynamic and colorful. Each of the 4 main pieces has a different feel from each other, from buzzing, roaring darkness, to ambient jazz, to a straight-up atmospheric EDM track, closing on a whirring synth nightmare. The variety of textures on display, the strong flow of the 40-minute experience, how willing it is to both be soothing and terrifying in equal measure. Yeah, I don't know if there's a ton more I can say about this one other than suggesting you go listen to it, but this one really worked for me. Really cool stuff. And yep, that's all I had for my usual release list this month. I'm not really surprised, this pretty much always happens around this time of year. On to viewer requests then. I actually had a lot more to sort through this time around, despite only finding 2 I actually had anything to say about, which, well, at least some of y'all seem to be requesting albums without even a basic understanding of my tastes. I'm not really into trap or rap in general. Straightforward radio rock or alt metal is just gonna bore me, as will really saccharine or homogenous pop albums. And EDM is just a flat no for me. I've heard a lot of albums, y'all. Projects need to do something to interest me, generally speaking. So, a reminder that I'm only going to cover albums that I actually have something to say about, which is generally albums I actually enjoyed. Though not necessarily, since... So, this is former comedian turned musician Tim Minchin with his debut album full of piano-driven pop. So, he's trying to be Ben Folds, basically. On a first for this series, I actually didn't like this album, but I think it fails in interesting ways. The boring stuff first, I'm not a huge fan of his voice, and the instrumentation itself is mostly fairly standard. The songs have nice crescendos, but they all kind of feel like the same crescendo and start to blur together pretty quick. But that's fine, that just puts the focus on the lyrics and well... The album itself seems to be aware of its biggest problem. Hell, there's a song specifically titled Talked Too Much, Stayed Too Long, and indeed, these songs are both overwritten and overwrought. The biggest offender is the 6-minute I'll Take Lonely Tonight, which takes a Honey I'm Good style attitude of congratulating itself for not cheating, with a dose of self-flagellation thrown into the mix, and it doesn't work, not at all. The title track starts with an interesting premise, but it doesn't really do anything with it. And then the obvious joke songs feel like they screw up the more emotive tone of the rest of the project. It's hard to take the other songs seriously, slotted in between cuts like Airport Piano and Beautiful Head. I wouldn't even say this is bad, as there are moments where it does work, and I did enjoy some of the songs in isolation, but the entire thing is both too homogenous and drawn out, while also being messy and tonally inconsistent, and I just could not get into it. Well, never been a huge Ben Folds fan anyways. Okay, first and foremost, I will say there's one aspect of this album I don't really care for, and it's something I don't really like about J-rock and J-pop in general. The vocals are just really shrill. Sometimes it blends in well enough with the instrumentation to sound fine, but like, bleh. Anyways, that besides, there's a lot of cool guitar work on this album. That's mainly why I wanted to cover this. Punchy riffs, sticky melodies, a driving energy. I especially like the rather chaotic and discordant chords on She Is Inside, He Is Outside. The bass is mixed maybe a touch loud though, other times it has no presence at all, so not completely sure on that one. The drums complement the high energy well enough, and the songs as a whole come together nicely, albeit I will say there's nothing spectacular or especially striking about this sound. It's just pretty well executed for the most part, and hell, I don't think I'd be able to stomach it if it was much longer than it is, so I'm kind of thankful for its shorter length. Neat little album, this one. Alright, and that'll be it for this month. Hopefully things will pick up next month. Viewer requests go in the comments below. Please make sure to read the rules, and please, please, make sure you're requesting something that at least stands a chance of connecting with me, alright? Anyways, I'll see y'all next month. Cyril out.